Sam Heughan looked nothing like the confident, charismatic man fans were used to seeing. Sitting in a quiet studio with soft lighting brushing against his face, his eyes were slightly red, his breathing uneven. The interviewer asked a simple question, one fans had joked about for years. What was it really like having a 10-year on-screen marriage with Caitriona Balfe? Sam opened his mouth to answer, but no words came. Instead, he lowered his gaze and whispered, "It was a marriage in its own way, and I've never talked about it." The silence that followed felt heavy, almost fragile. Even the interviewer seemed afraid to break it. Sam rubbed his hands together, the way people do when they're trying not to fall apart. "People think it was just acting," he said, voice trembling slightly. "But sharing that much life with someone, it does something to you." He began to explain that his marriage with Caitríona wasn't romantic, wasn't physical, and wasn't something either of them labeled. It was the kind of bond formed when two people spend years building a world together, crying, laughing, fighting, healing, all inside a story that demanded every ounce of emotional truth they had. "You live inside that intensity for so long," he said softly. Eventually, the lines blur. Fans watching the livestream felt their chests tighten. Sam recalled their early days on Outlander, when everything felt new and overwhelming. They barely knew each other, yet the roles demanded intimacy and vulnerability from day one. "We had to trust each other instantly," he said. "And somehow, we did. That trust became the foundation of everything that followed. Every scene, every heartbreak, every reunion, every whisper between Claire and Jamie." Then he admitted something he had never said publicly. "There were days," Sam confessed, "when the connection felt so real it scared me. Not because he was falling in love with Caitríona, but because the emotional bond they shared inside the story felt deeper than anything he'd experienced outside of it. It was like having a partner," he said. "Someone who saw every version of you, the strong parts, the broken parts, the parts you didn't want anyone else to see." He paused again, blinking hard as if fighting back tears. "I don't think people understand how intense it is to pretend to be married for a decade," he continued. "You start learning each other's rhythms. You know when they're tired, when they're hurting, when they're carrying something heavy." The way he spoke about Caitríona made it clear. This wasn't nostalgia. It was grief. Sam then described a particular moment early in filming that still haunted him. They'd finished an emotional scene, one heavy with longing and pain. When the director said, "Cut," Sam felt his chest tighten, overwhelmed by a rush of emotions he couldn't name. Caitríona approached him quietly, touched his arm, and asked, "Are you all right?" That single moment of tenderness, off script, off camera, changed something in him. "It felt like she understood me in a way no one else did," Sam said. "And that's when it began to feel like a marriage, not the romantic kind, but a partnership." His voice trembled. "And that's also when I realized how much it would hurt one day when things changed." He explained that over the years, they carried each other through exhaustion, heartbreak, and the emotional toll of telling a love story that fans around the world believed in. "We weren't just acting together," he said. "We were surviving together." And that bond, he admitted, was both beautiful and dangerous, because he became afraid of losing it. The interviewer asked gently, "Did you ever talk about it with her?" Sam shook his head. "No," he whispered, "because I didn't want to complicate her life. Or mine." Fans could hear the regret in every word. It wasn't regret for love unspoken. It was regret for a connection that had no name, no place, no future outside the world they built together. He finally looked up at the camera, eyes glistening. "In many ways," he said, voice shaking, "it felt like we were married. And losing parts of that hurts more than I expected." The studio fell into silence. Sam exhaled deeply, as if releasing a truth he had held inside for far too long. "We'll always be close," he said. "But some versions of us only existed on that set." It was a confession filled with love, loss, and the ache of knowing that life inevitably pulls even the closest hearts in different directions. The livestream ended with fans in tears, knowing Sam had only revealed the beginning of a story that clearly still lived inside him. When Sam returned to finish the interview, something in him had shifted. He looked calmer, but the sadness still lingered around the edges of his smile like a shadow that refused to disappear. "I didn't explain what I meant," he said softly. "About losing parts of that marriage." His voice cracked on the last word, and the room fell silent again. He began by describing what marriage meant in the world he and Caitriona built. It wasn't romance, wasn't longing, wasn't anything the tabloids loved to twist. It was partnership. A decade of emotional labor, shared burdens, whispered encouragements, and unspoken understanding. "You don't go through that with someone and walk away unchanged," Sam said. "It binds you, whether you want it to or not." But the ache came from what no fan ever saw. Behind the carefully edited scenes and press interviews, Sam often relied on Caitríona in ways he didn't fully understand at the time. If he was overwhelmed, she noticed first. If he was anxious before a heavy scene, she instinctively stood beside him. "We fell into each other's emotional rhythms," he said. "Like people do when they're married, I guess." He laughed sadly at the word. Then Sam revealed the moment things truly broke inside him. The moment his emotional version of their marriage changed forever. It happened when Caitríona told him she was getting married in real life. He remembered congratulating her with a bright smile, hugging her tightly, telling her how happy he was. But inside, he whispered, "I felt something collapse. Not jealousy, not longing, just the sudden realization that the private world they shared on set could never stay untouched by reality." He explained that he had always known their bond wasn't romantic, yet it filled a space in his life that he hadn't recognized until it was gone. "She was my constant," he said. "We grew together, leaned on each other, built something only the two of us understood. And then life, her life, expanded beyond that world." Sam didn't blame her. The sadness came from knowing something intimate and sacred was shifting. After her wedding, something subtle changed between them. Not distance, exactly, but a new awareness. Sam found himself pulling back without meaning to, afraid of misstepping or of burdening her with the same emotional weight he once leaned on her for. "She deserved the freedom to build her real life," he said. "And I didn't want to be the reason she felt divided." It was the closest thing to a confession he had ever made. The interviewer asked him gently whether Caitríona noticed the shift. Sam nodded without hesitation. "She did," he said. "She always noticed." He recalled a day when she pulled him aside and said, "You don't have to disappear just because my life changed." The kindness in her voice nearly broke him. "But I thought I had to," he admitted. "Because I didn't know what my place was anymore." He described filming emotional scenes after that moment, how the intensity still came naturally, how the trust was still there, but something inside him felt heavier. Every time Jamie held Claire, Sam felt the echo of a bond he once relied on but no longer allowed himself to lean into. "It was like acting out memories of something we'd already lived," he said quietly. The sadness in his truth was unmistakable. But the most heartbreaking revelation came when he admitted that he grieved their earlier connection, not because he wanted her romantically, but because he missed the version of themselves that existed only in the beginning. "We were just two people discovering each other," he said. "Before boundaries, before fame, before life pulled us into separate futures. That innocence," he confessed, "was the real loss." Still, Sam insisted the story wasn't tragic. It was human. They adapted. They built a new version of friendship, steadier, more grounded, less tangled in unspoken emotion. They supported one another with genuine care, free from the weight of blurred lines. "Our bond didn't disappear," he said. "It just evolved." A small, tired smile lifted at the corner of his lips. As the interview neared its end, Sam looked directly into the camera, eyes damp but peaceful. "People think we lost something," he said. "But the truth is, we kept what mattered." He paused, letting the words settle. "It wasn't a marriage the world recognized, but it was ours. And I'll always carry it with me." With that final sentence, the room seemed to exhale. The sadness remained, gentle, undeniable, but so did something warmer. Gratitude for a connection that shaped two lives in ways only they could understand.